And Boker Tov and Shabbat Shalom. This is the fourth of the 54 parshas, the fourth Sabbath of the year. As we are on the first part of this great race, this great track that we're running throughout the year. Every year we run this track. Every year we pass the same milestones, the same landmarks, but every year hopefully we're a little wiser and a little more able to interpret through the truth of the signs of what the landmarks mean to us, and begin to apply the truths that we learned in the last year in real life situations, in which what we're dealing with is real people, and we're not living in an abstract thought, in a realm of concept or idea. We're now actually interacting in a very positive, in a very effectual way with the creation and with the people that the Holy One, our God, has created. So as we begin Parsha Vayera, this is the Shabbat of vision. Vayera is a word which means, and he appeared, or he made himself visible. And he made himself visible, the creator of the universe making himself visible, allowing us to see the telltale signs, the signature brush strokes, as it were, of who he is in real time on planet Earth in the course of daily activities. So this is the parsha that will keep us moving. It is the second of the great patriarchal chronicle parshas. It is part of a great chiasm. If we look forward, the one that began with last week's parsha, Lech Lecha, that was item one of the chiasm, and then we go through, and this is the second of the chiasm, and then we go forward all the way to Vayeshev, parsha Vayeshev, and these seven parshas in line are the patriarchal chronicles before we get into the end game, the end time restoration that the Holy One has planned, which are parshas 9. 10, number 10, Miketz, 11, Vayigash, and 12, Vayetzi. Those are the end game parshas of the book. And so here we are at the second phase of the chiasm, and this will correspond, if you know chiasms, you understand this process. This will correspond to Parsha Vayishlach later on, the eighth parsha, and I encourage you to see the parallels and the former rain and latter rain aspects of Parsha Vayera with Parsha Vayishlach. But there's just mysteries to be told, right? Those are just mysteries. Now, what about the practical aspects of what the Holy One's really doing? How do we begin to knock on the door of what the Torah really provides for us, and what the Creator of the universe has designed for us to read each year? It's almost like going to a house, and later today we get the privilege of being part of a dedication service ceremony for a new home in this area, and it will be one of those beautiful things, because Torah is like a house that we dedicate. We dedicate Torah to the Holy One like a house every year. And so when you come to a house, the first thing you see is a door, and you knock on the door, but you don't know what's behind the door. You only know that there's a door. There is something there. You're convinced this is not just a mirage, this is real. And so you come to the Torah, and immediately you think, okay, I just need to open the door. And that is the Peshat, or the first level of Torah interpretation. You just know there's a door. You know there's something there. And so you just come and you enter the point. This is your opening stage in the Torah. And then you open the door, and lo and behold, what do you find? You find a hallway. You open the door into the hallway. And you say, oh, vey, I thought it was going to be mysteries. And you know, it's a hallway. And the hallway leads to multiple doors. And you see I don't know which door to go to. I'm standing at the entrance door, but now I've got multiple doors that I got to go to. Which of these doors should I go to first? And what's behind those doors when I get there? This is the way we look at Torah, the second phase of our looking at Torah. Oh, it's a pathway. It's a hallway. And there are many, many, many doors to open and look through and draw wisdom out of, and draw encouragement out of, and draw inspiration from. But I don't know how. And so that's what the second level is. We begin to plot a pathway. Actually, the Creator plots the pathway for us. And this is the pathway. This is the darash. This is the movement. This is the way, the steps, the intricate steps that we lead down the hallway to the various doors, and he directs us as to which door to open first. This is darash. We have the beginning of Peshat at the beginning of the opening door, and then we go into the area where we're actually developing a pathway, strategy, and steps and practical ways to get to the revelation factor. Then we follow this path of Torah like we go to a house. We're in a house, and we go to the house. We get to one of the doors, and he's led us to the door. We know we followed the pathway to the door. And then, but there's another door. It's a little door, and we don't know what's behind that door. And so we open the door, and we realize that this door is connected to all the other doors. But we hadn't seen this before. It's all in sequence. It's all in divine order. And so we say, okay, this is just the opening door into another door I'm going to open. But this door I need to, and this is remez. This is where we get to the idea of the hints of the other doors that we will enter. This is the third level of interpretation and dealing with the Torah. As it is with a house, so it is with the Torah. And finally, when we open that door and we begin to walk in, we suddenly realize, whoa, we're overwhelmed. There is so much in this room. In each of these rooms, there's so much in each one of these rooms. They hint to so much. There's so many secrets. They got drawers, and they got doors to open, and they got cabinets, and there's different places that things are hidden. And I need to. This is the way in which we get into the sod, or the mystery side of the Torah, the deeper levels of the revelation stream. So here we are at the beginning of Parsha 4, and we've just begun to learn how to walk down the hallway and open doors. We don't even know what's behind the doors. We don't know why we're opening the doors. We don't know we can't yet see the fullness of the picture of why these doors are all connected. And of course, these doors are all parshas of the Torah. And this is the fourth Parsha of the Torah, and here we are at Parsha Vayera. This is the 20th day of Heshvan, and so I want to welcome all you who are watching on the internet. If you are from the southern hemisphere or the other side of the equator, whichever way you want to look at it, if you are from that place, please leave a message leave a message anyway and let us know you're here. But it helps us to realize, especially in times like this in America, that we are not alone in this world. Now, America's election does not determine the course of the world's events. That whatever happens, however it turns out, however emotional any persons may be about it on one side or the other, the world is a beautiful, large place involving many, many nationalities, many, many places, many, many people, and each one of them has their own different perspective, and things are happening in different ways in different worlds. So if you're from South Africa, Australia, if you're from New Zealand, if you're from any of the places, Mexico, if you're or down southern South America, would you please leave your name and your place where you are, and we'll speak a blessing over you. Please speak a blessing over us. And those of you who are in Canada, and those who are all throughout the United States and through the Western world, Eastern Europe, England, blessings to you, and welcome to be here. So as we begin on the 20th of Heshvan, the 20th of Heshvan in the year 5781. What does it mean to anybody? Well, we need to know the times and the seasons, right? Most people think of this as November the 7th, 2021. That's in the Western world in which we live, November 7, 2021. But in the Hebrew mindset, no, it's something different. It's 20th of Heshvan, which is the 8th month of the Exodus calendar, the biblical calendar. And it's the second month of the creation's calendar, the second month after creation, and of course after the festivals of the seventh month. So here we are. What are the times and the seasons? If we're going to understand, if we need to grasp what's in behind the door of Parsha Vayera, then we need to know the times and the seasons in which we are introduced to this door. What is it about this season that's brought us to Parsha Vayera? It's not just sequential in the Torah. This is the Holy One designing us to know what's necessary for this stage of our lives. If you're looking around America and you're frustrated and worried, as most people are, about how this election is going to turn out, and there's something in Parsha Vayera behind this door for you. And if you're also concerned about COVID or some other sickness or some political or other movement that's going on, or some harshness in the media or harshness in the social media, there's something in this Parsha for you that's behind this door. For us, for all of us, there's something waiting for us behind the door of Parsha Vayera. So what are the times and the seasons that we live in? Well, this is, as I said, the 20th of Heshvan. What is happening around you? Look at creation. We're in the northern hemisphere, or the this side of the equator. I realize people have different views about how the shape of the world is. I'm not going to get into that issue, but I know people have that argument. So I'll just use either way, whichever you want to consider yourself, in the southern hemisphere or on the other side of the equator from me. I don't care. But whichever it is, now you're looking at things different. We're looking at things here on this side of the equator in a certain way. And I sat on my patio this morning before I took my walk, and I was showered by something. The wind blew through the trees, through the pecans, through the oaks, and suddenly out of the sky began to rain these things, these drying up, colorful leaves. And my head was covered, and my little hair was caught in my hair, and I thought, oh, what a beautiful thing. But we're in this season of things that appeared powerful for a while, that seemed so vibrant and so full of life, drying up and losing their vibrancy, losing their life, and beginning to turn loose of the life source and fall to the earth. And a new process begins when that all takes place. And that's a new process of new life that's coming. But this idea of the falling of the leaves, the turning of the seasons, the changing of the temperatures, this is the time and the season in which we are called to open this door of Parsha Vayera. And so what is it? What's happening? We're seeing that the earth is being readied for another harvest season. But a planting season must come first. But before the planting season must come a soil preparation season. But before the soil preparation season must come the disposal of all the stuff that happened in the last harvest season. Oh, we're in a season now where we're just beginning an agricultural cycle by basically saying goodbye to the last one. The last of the harvest is in, with the exception perhaps of the harvest of beating, the shaking. The harvest of shaking is the harvest of olives. And when you hear the scripture talking to you about shakings, I will shake once more. The harvest, the olive harvest will come. This is a picture of what's happening. The last day's harvest, the latter part's harvest, will take place in the time of shaking, because that's what you do to an olive tree to harvest its olives. You shake it and make the olives, who are too high for you to reach, fall off on the ground, and you pack them up and you take them. So this is that time we're in that last push of the harvest season. We're seeing the last of the fruit of whatever it was we planted and cultivated last year. I say good riddance to most of it. The things I can think of that whatever you sow, you will reap. Well, we have been reaping what we sowed. In America, in our own individual lives, in our fellowships, in the world in general, we have been reaping what we sowed, and that's all we're doing. This is not some horrible plot against us. Well, there is a horrible plot against us, but this is not that. Never worry about the horrible plot. One of the themes of this week's Parsha is laughter. Laughter. The things that don't seem to be funny to other people are hilarious to us because of our connection to God, because of our connection to the Creator of the universe. When other people are frustrated and angry and they can't possibly see a way out of where we are, He speaks to us and we laugh. and we laugh. And heaven, the Holy One sits in the heavens and He laughs whenever the plots of the wicked come. But this is not about that. This is about us reaping the harvest of what we sowed. If you don't realize that, you'll continue to blame other people and movements, and you'll blame the anti-Messiah, and you'll blame the Democrats and the Republicans for what the ites, all those ites out there. I may have mispronounced that, I don't know. You'll blame the ites for what's going on, and He says, no, you're just reaping the harvest of what you've sowed. So be careful you plant a better crop next year. Plant a better crop with your words. Plant a better crop with your attitude. Plant a better crop with your vision. Plant a better crop with your behavior. Plant a better crop with your love, with your mercy, with your kindness, and with your patience. And a couple of other things that we'll talk about this week that are the center point of this parsha. Zedakah u'mishpat. English will translate that for you usually as righteousness and justice, or righteousness and judgment. But I encourage you, careful with the vocabulary, careful with taking English as your vocabulary methodology. Careful with accepting your mental construct of what those terms mean, because biblically, zakah umishpat means something totally different than what you think of probably as righteousness and justice, particularly this strange phenomenon that the world now espouses as its lover, which is social justice. Social justice is the antithesis of divine justice. Social justice is a seductress trying to take you away from the concept of what God has really released upon the earth, which is his idea of what is right and what needs to happen for the benefit of the creation. That's a whole other story. We'll get to that later. First of all, remember where we are. We just begun to learn that there is a grand plan afoot. Why we laugh? This is why we laugh. There is a grand plan. There is a grand planner. And there is a grand plan. And I can't say, I want to say hallelujah. I can't help myself. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be hype you up or anything like that. I can't help it. This is exciting to me that there's a grand planner and he has a grand plan. And his grand plan is good. Tov, it's a fountain of good. It's ever flowing with good. He is so full of good, we don't know what to make of it. We can't overcome him with evil. We have to let him overcome us with the good. And this plan that he has afoot is for good. And you know me, if you know me very well, if you've been around me for very long, I have a way of articulating it, which is just the way I feel it, the way I sense it. He has a grand plan for the redemption of mankind as a species, bloodline by bloodline and household by household. And that's not all. For the restoration of all of creation, hillside by hillside, valley by valley, inch by inch, acre by acre, to its original intended Edenic state of beauty and fruitfulness, shalom, and harmonious inner working. That's quite a plan, because he's quite a planner. It's quite a plan because he's quite a planner. Well, we're just getting started learning that this plan is real, that the planner is aggressively moving it forward at all times, and then wonder of wonders, that he wants us to be part of it. That he gives us the honor, the privilege of being part of it. If we open his door, go down the hallway where he tells us to go, open the Parsha doors, open up into and begin to explore the things that he wishes to explore. So this is the grand plan, the grand planner. We're just beginning. What are the key elements of his grand plan? I hope you've learned them by now. There's basically 8 key elements to the grand plan. First is to establish a strong connection. This is the Creator's grand plan. For him to establish a strong connection with one prototypical man. And I will broaden that to say one prototypical man or woman in every sphere of influence that exists upon the earth. His first step of his plan is to make a contact, make a deep connection with one man or one woman or one child. You can Judah over there. One man, one woman, one child in every sphere of influence. Of course, your households, you've got families, you've got cities, you've got neighborhoods, you've got marketplaces, you've got workplaces, you've got countries. Every sphere of influence, and we have multiple, to have one man or one woman or one child who is so connected to him that he can use them to shine light into that dark place. So that's step one. Establish number two. After he makes this deep connection, I need to stop. Do any of you feel that connection? Has the Creator of the universe connected with you? Now, if you're thinking, I connected with him, you connected with him, you've already missed the boat. You're not there yet, because he makes the connection. The part of the divine romance is he seeks you out. He looks for you. And then you think you're responding. You think you're calling him. You think you're looking for him. No, he's already found you, and he's called you. So, number one, he establishes that strong connection. And I pray that everyone watching, that everyone here in this room has already sensed you are the object of divine romance. He has called you. He has seen you. He has chosen you. He has touched you. He has invaded your lifestyle and your life mindset in your world in order to call you to participate in this grand plan. And this is your honor to do so. Secondly, after he makes the connection, he establishes a relationship of wonder and trust. Wonder is yirat in Hebrew, the fear, we call it in English, but it's this sense of awe and reverence that we tremble at his presence, not because we're afraid he's going to smash us, because he's so majestic and so beautiful and so wonderful and so amazingly more powerful and yet more beautiful than we could possibly imagine anyone being. And this wonder offset, two things always in the Hebrew, in the plant, offset by this sense of trust. Not only is he all powerful and awesome, we automatically begin to just trust him because we just sense he's good. And everything he does, even though we don't understand it, is good. Are you there yet? Are you beginning to sense this? Are you beginning to feel wonder, yirat Adonai, and are you beginning to fear emunah, agedi emunah, to receive this sense of a consciousness that no matter what seems to be going on around you, no matter what seems to be happening in the physical world or in the things that you can see with your natural eyes, he is working a grand plan for absolute good. This is the second level to establish the relationship of wonder and of trust. And then the third step in the process is to blaze a narrow road, a narrow path. To blaze for us through this world. He does this. This is his third process of the plan, third step of the plan, is to blaze a narrow pathway for us that leads us to a sense of transcending, of overcoming, of getting beyond, of having more in this world than just what the rest of the world sees or knows. Having a deeper purpose, a deeper reason to exist, a deeper sense of connection to our to eternity and to the next generations that come after us, even in that. So this narrow road blazing trail. And then fourth, to entrust a vision of transcendence, a vision for transcendence. Not just a pathway you could just follow step by step, but a sense that we're actually going somewhere and there's a method to it. And there is a process to it, a vision of transcendence. As a matter of fact, one of the things we'll talk about in Parsha Vayera is a strange well, a well called Be'er, or spring as it may be interpreted by different folks, Be'er L'chai Roi. Be'er L'chai Roi. The well of life vision. The well of the vision of life. The bigger picture, the vision of the bigger picture. So the fourth step is to develop in us. Are you getting a picture, a vision of a bigger picture and how you fit into it, and that this is a pathway to life? Okay. Number 5, the fifth path, is to make the contrast of paths and the destinations those paths lead to very, very clear, very manifest. In other words, most of us were thinking we're just going to do what we can do. We'll live by pleasure. We'll avoid pain. We'll have as much fun and thrills and excitement as we want. We'll try to do good, do right, do fair, be just, all those things, and hope it'll turn out all right. But we don't see, because we can't see until he opens our eyes, that every step we take along the pathway is either taking us to his transcendent vision for life and for creation, or it's taking us in another direction that leads to death. The way of a man, the thoughts of a man are right in his own mind, but they lead only to death. This is that aspect of what it is. So make the contrast of paths and of destinies very clear. And number 6, he takes on flesh. This is troublesome for some of my brothers in the Jewish background. He takes on flesh. Sorry, we're going to have to either take it or not. Now, the name of this parsha is, and he appeared. This is not the first time he's done it. This is not the first time he took on some form. He took on some tangibility. He took on some corporeality. This is not the first time. It happened first in Genesis 12, and he appeared to Avram as he was at the oaks of Moreh. And he told him at that time that to your descendants I will give this land at that particular time. And then it happened again. It's happened also in chapter 17. In chapter 17, verse 1. And he appeared. Vayera. Vayera. He appeared. He made himself plainly visible by coming out of, stepping through the infinity barrier, as I call it. He stepped out of the finity barrier, where he was infinite and becomes finite. in some way we don't understand. This is one of those mysteries of beauty. But just to use doctrines of incorporeality doesn't make any sense when you read the actual Torah and what it says in the Hebrew. He says he appeared. And then he spoke, which means he actually took on some form of something that would actually send sound waves, shock waves, and that would be audible by the human ear. That means he had to make himself in some way manifest. And so part 6 of his strategy is to take on flesh, to take on form. As he takes on flesh and form, he touches, he teaches, he demonstrates, and he leads men in that pathway of transcendence according to the vision of life that he has shown. That's part 7. No, part 6. Part 7 is to put his own breath. Part 7 of his grand plan is to put his own breath of life, and thus his own personality and his own life force, into those who have begun to walk on that path with him. He puts his own life breath and his own persona and his own personality and traits into them, and then he leads them even when there is no specific directive, spoken or written, that they can follow in a given situation. The Spirit leads. The breath begins to lead. And because you are connected to the personality of the Creator, he knows that you will begin to respond to him. This is when we go from the idea of becoming servants to becoming friends. When we move from the idea, there's a famous way that it's said in Hebrew at the Mount Sinai. The initial response when we heard all the things that the Holy One wanted to do was Naaseh. We will do it. We'll just do it. We don't get it. We don't understand it. We don't have to. You said it. We'll just do it. We don't know how to do it. We don't know what we're doing, but we'll do it. Naaseh. We'll make it happen. We'll just somehow make it happen. And then he says that's really not enough. And he kept pushing until finally in chapter 24, verse 7 of Exodus, right before the big explosion when they went up and 72 elders stood before the Holy One, they finally got it when the blood was sprinkled on them. When the blood was sprinkled on the people and they cried out, Naaseh v'nishma! Naaseh, that's not all. V'nishma, we're going to transcend just doing because we know how to do it. Just following your rules, just obeying your instructions. We're going to transcend that. We're going to nishma. We're going to respond like a tuning fork to a pitch. We're going to respond in key. We're going to respond in harmony with what you're doing, even when there is no specific instruction to do it. Naaseh v'nishma. So we're passing. This is the process of paragraph number 7 to enable us to do that. And then number 8, the final part of his grand redemptive plan is to send out harvesters, which are those in whom is this breath of life, in whom is this frequency working as a tuning fork. Send them out to model the Shema lifestyle, to walk in the Torah pathway, but not to be limited to the Torah pathway, be the point of the spear, witnesses, and to make disciples of all nations. Now, some of these phrases you just heard spoken as these 8 portions of the grand plan of redemption for mankind, you will have heard come out of Messiah's lips. Some of them you heard come out of Moshe's lips. Some of them you heard come out of the people's lips. This is the grand plan, and as it is revealed, these 8 phases. Where are you all in the grand plan? Where are we in the grand plan? Parsha number 4 out of 54, Vayera, comes from a root meaning to see, to be seen, to be manifest. Another one of the famous phrases out of this parsha. Over years and years, it was called, by a name. Whenever we started using this whole idea that the Holy One speaks through his names, and there was a lot of teaching on this phrase, Jehovah Jireh. But you're familiar with. People are familiar with that, so I'll use that phrase, Jehovah Jireh. And I remember learning whenever I began my path, my walk, and going into the different institutions that I went into, that Jehovah Jireh meant that the Holy One, the Creator of the universe, will provide. Until I actually began to go back and read the Hebrew again. That's not what it says at all. Well, I guess you could, it's one phase of what he does. He will be seen. He will reveal himself. He will manifest himself. He will break the affinity barrier and come into your world. On the mountain of the Holy One, he will be seen. Yehovah, Yahweh. I don't care your pronunciation. He will be seen. He will be manifested on the mountain of the Lord. Now we're going to see how that all plays in this process. The times and the seasons, the gild is off the lily. That's what the most of the blush is off the rose. What do I mean by that? If we're going to understand before we get into this parsha and its details, why we're here at this stage, why this particular door is opening to us right now, the first thing I would say to you is the gild is off the lily. The gild on a lily is it's a Shakespearean expression. You gild the lily means you take a flower and you put all sorts of stuff on it, make it look even prettier than it did. You put gold on it, or you put silver on it. You gild the lily. This is exaggerated. It's hyped. It's all emotional. It's all sensual. It's all stimulating to the vision of the eye and the flesh. It's appealing to the flesh. We're in the second month of the creation year, the 8th month of the biblical year, and the gild is off the lily. I mean, it ain't pretty. All the sparkle and all the fluff. There's no great passion of Yom Kippur. There's no great passion of Sukkot, the first day of Sukkot, and building the sukkah and encountering the friends and the clouds of the heavens. Those things have passed. We're a month past that now. We're 40 days basically at this stage out of Yom Kippur. We're only about 40 days from Hanukkah, from the abomination that causes desolation, and then the overcoming of that process. We're in the midst of this. We're in the middle of it, and the gild is off the lily, and the blush is off the rose. This is real life. Is this the real life? Or is this a fantasy? This is the real life. We're in the real life now. The immediate romance of the betrothal, the fun, the excitement, the thrill. I could B.B. King-y a little bit here, but the thrill is gone. And now are we really in this or are we not? We had last week was we have the Lech Lecha. And I dream weird things and I wake up in the middle of the night. In the middle of the night, I'm sitting there talking to a group of people like I'm doing here and talking to you on the internet, and the stupidness, the silliness of my youth came back, and I said, Lech Lecha. It rhymes with a Bostonian telling you he wrecked a car. Why would I dream that? I don't know. But anyway, and so we're in this season when suddenly it's got to be real. It's the mundane. This is the season of the mundane. Are you up for the mundane? It's all real well and good when you're on the mountaintop and you're having these great experiences and things are popping. I mean, you're building sukkahs and angelic visitors are coming to your house and all this is all exciting. And now we're in the mundane season. Leaves are falling and it's about to start raining all over you. Well, we hope so. We need the rain. Well, it's that time. So this is that scenario. We are called in these times to mature through adversity. Okay? Vayera is all about adversity. As a matter of fact, this whole part of this whole chiasm is going to be a part about overcoming. But that's how you mature. That's how we become faithful witnesses. That's how we become good friends. We don't mature through grand, happy, hyped experiences. The gild on the lily doesn't make you mature. It makes you excited, but it doesn't make you mature. What makes you mature is to walk through the mundane and the adverse. And as a matter of fact, in the Hebrew tradition, this part is called the center point of the trials or the tests of Avram. Avram receiving 10 tests during his life. And his walk with the Holy One after he turned, particularly after he turned 75. And this is in the midst of the deepest part of his trials. It will actually end in, this parsha will end in the trial of Moriah, the trial of Akedat Yitzhak, the trial of the calling him up to Moriah to make an olah of Yitzhak, with Yitzhak. So this is the time of trial. Are we ready for the time of trial? Are we ready to set into the mundane? Are we ready to set into the trials and the tribulations, knowing that this is all for good because the planner is at work? It's not the world treating us badly, though it may be. Let me go on. Testing yields maturation. The mundane yields testing. Testing yields maturation. Maturation yields preparation. Mundane, testing, maturation, preparation. Preparation for what? We'll get to that. Another week, another time. Preparation for the next season of mundane. But we'll get to something better than that. So what are the events and prophetic patterns of the month of Heshvan, which we are in, getting close to the end of? It is the month of the former rains. In Israel, this is the month we begin to see the rains. We pray for the rains. We actually have a custom of waiting after a certain number of days after everybody returns home from Sukkot, from the time of the pilgrimage to Jerusalem for Sukkot. We have a period, and after we know they're all back home to all the different places that they've come, we begin to pray for rain, because we need the rain to prepare for the next harvest season. We need the former rains. And so this is the time when we begin to pray for the former rains and hopefully begin to see the former rains. Are you ready for some former rains? Are you ready for your soil to be prepared for the harvest to come? Well, what do you want to sow? Have you got that plan? Have you got your seed designed? Have you got it set apart? Are you ready to begin to plant with a view for a harvest we're going to get next summer and fall? Don't worry about what's happening right now. We got to take care of what's happening right now. But the most important thing is what's going to happen next summer and next fall, because that's when the harvest will begin to take place. It's the month of former rains. Biblically, pretty easy to see. What day was it that the waters of the flood began? It was the 17th day of Heshvan, 3 days ago. And 3 days ago, the flood waters began for 40 days. So we're in the midst of the season of the former rains. Also, on the 27th of Heshvan, the next year of this same month, a week from today, in the year of the flood, the waters receded, and Noah and his family and the animals all came off of the ark. And we began a new, fresh start. The gild was off the lily, for sure, and the blush was off the rose. And we had to deal with the mundane again. We had to deal with that process. And so this is also, according to long-standing tradition, the month in which Rachel died. Rachel, in childbirth to Rachel, in childbirth to with Benjamin, she went to the throes of the pain, the agony, the suffering, and she died on the road to Ephrat near Bethlehem. And so we have the matriarch, the sense of this growth, the new life. There's something is dying in this season as well. We have Sarah's death also occurs. We're going to see it next week in the Parsha. We'll see Sarah die at Kiryat Arba, and then we have the acquisition of Machpelah, the great cave. This is the week. This is the season, the month of Kristallnacht. And oh, are we ever dealing with Kristallnacht. Kristallnacht was a night, the 9th and 10th of November in 1938. Critical turning point in history. Absolutely critical turning point now, because we're back in the Kristallnacht mode. What was Kristallnacht? Kristallnacht is the night of shattered glass, the night of broken glass. What do you see happening in our cities? It was the night when broken glass and fires were set in the shops and the streets and the buildings. It was a night when roving mobs were brought to rage and brought to the fullness of their emotions, yelling for social justice, and I'll explain that one in just a moment. That's what they wanted, was social justice. And in the process, anyone that got in their way, anybody who was in the wrong place at the wrong time, was savagely beaten in the streets. That was crystal knocked. Hello, we're back. We're there again. Now you say, what is this deal about social justice? Weren't they just anti-Jewish? Well, there's a reason. Here's the point. Why did they have a crystal knocked? Joseph Goebbels and Adolf Hitler were looking for a good way to mobilize the ordinary people against those that they had chosen to scapegoat for all their problems, which was the Jewish people. Goebbels and Hitler come up with drafted this plan. And they had to await one event. They had to await something they could use to manipulate public opinion, to turn emotions and public opinion. One person is all it took. One person doing something that they could manipulate and twist and use to justify social justice against the Jews. So what happened? A young expelled refugee from Germany named Greenspan, Herschel Greenspan, 17 years old, little boy. He's been kicked out. His family has been kicked out of Germany by the movements that are taking foot because he's of Jewish descent. His family is suffering, starving in Paris, in the area in France, and he is upset. He's agitated. He's emotionally engaged. He thinks it's not right. It's not fair. It's not just. And so he goes to the German embassy in Paris under the idea that he's going to seek some aid, some relief from the German ambassador there, but he carries his gun with him. Because you see, he's just filled with rage at the unfairness of this whole process. He's going to execute his own justice. Worse than that, he's going to confuse justice with vengeance. And so he takes his gun, and Herschel comes, a little boy, 17-year-old boy, comes into the office with Ernst von, what's the last name? I can't remember the last name. And Roth, Ernst von Roth, who is a German ambassador in Paris. And as he gets him ready to start talking to young 17-year-old boy about what relief he seeks, he pulls out the weapon, Herschel does, and shoots Ernst von Roth. And he shoots him mortally. He lingers for 3 days and he dies. And so what happens is then this is the trigger point. Now we got something. So Goebbels and Hitler conspire and plan, and we schedule choreographed uprisings. They're not spontaneous at all. They're choreographed uprisings. We send in agitators. We send in the stormtroopers, Sturmbrigaden, I forget how you pronounce that in German. But they send in these stormtroopers, and they begin to publicize that we're going to shatter glass, and we're going to wreak social justice against these Jewish people who had nothing to do with Herschel Greenspan doing what Herschel Greenspan did. Well, what is the impetus for all the recent breaking of glass? What is the impetus? What is the event that was chosen to be the catalyst that we say social justice is necessary? It was a sad thing that happened to a man named George Floyd. He is Ernst von Roth. And so here we go. This is the season. This is why we're at door number 4. This is why we're at Parsha Vayera now, so that we can learn how to deal with not responding to the outcry. This is the Parsha of the outcry, and learning how not to overreact to the outcry. Learning to follow the Creator of the universe's standards and His ways and His thinking. And when you deal with a social outcry that's going on, the outcry will be the outcry against Sodom. Well, we'll get to that in a minute. This is also the month in which the first temple was actually completed by Solomon. And according to long-standing tradition, this will be the month in which Mashiach, Messiah, will inaugurate the third temple in the time to come. Well, we're in the next phase of divine romance. Divine romance has been started with each of you. With each of you. We are in the throes of a divine romance, and we have had wonderful experiences, but we're going to be taken into a place of maturing the relationship. He doesn't just want us to be starstruck lovers. He wants us to be friends that co-labor with him in this grand plan. So we're going to transition from being good and faithful servants to becoming fruitful, flourishing friends of God. Abraham is not known as being the servant of God, although he called himself that. He is known for being the friend of God. And we are learning how to become friends. Now, here is the as we seek to become friends of the Creator of the universe, as we aspire that this is the ultimate goal, we will be separated to some level from those who are very happy just being servants. Ours is not to sit there and judge them as being not willing to go forward. Ours is to understand he has servants, and then he has friends. And the responsibility and the accountability of the friend is much deeper than the responsibility and the accountability of the servant. But the pleasures of the relationship are also significantly greater. There are 6 prototypical places, actually 12, because there's an antithesis for each one. In this hallway that is opened up to us as we open up Parsha Vayera, there are 6 doors, and each one of them contains an opposite side of the hallway, and there's 6 on the other side too. I'll see what I'm saying. The first place, the first geographical place, and these are all prototypical. The first place we're told about is Eloneh Mamre. And in English, Bibles, King James usually calls, I think, the Oaks of Mamre. This is where Abraham is when all the appearing takes place, when everything starts. We're at Eloneh Mamre. And Eloneh is from a Hebrew word, Ayil, and the ram. We're going to see the ram play prominently in this parsha. But when we say oak, it's because oak stands like a ram, stands strong, stands mighty, stands powerful. That's why we call, but it's because it's like a ram. The ram is the visibility process. The oak, the ram of fatness, of fullness, marah, full strength, of coming to fullness, of maturity. The word marah, the verb marah from which Mamre comes, is what has happened whenever you're riding a horse and you want to speed up. And you take the lash, or you use the spur, and you do what's necessary to make the horse, or just use your heel and make the horse speed up in its movement. This is where we are, the strength of the fullness of moving in full speed at what we're doing. And then the Eloneh Mamre has an antithesis, and that antithesis is called Sodom, or Sodom in the English world. You will find yourself going one of these 2 places. You will find yourself considering yourself a resident of one of these 2 places. You will empathize with one of these 2 worldviews. One of these, the Eloneh Mamre, the idea of the fullness of the strength of God coming forth in your life, or the idea that, they're having a good time over in Sodom. Oh, it's fun over there. They're having entertainment and thrills and excitement, and they're emotionally all into everything, and they're sensual, and you'll choose one of these pathways, and that's the first lesson of the Parsha Vayera. Which way are you going, Billy? Which way are you going, Uncle Avram? Which way are you going, Lot? Which way are you going, Lot's wife? Who are you? Whoever you are you connected to Eloneh Mamre? Are you connected to Sodom? The second series of doors that we'll pass by, one of them is called Zoar. It's a little village. Matter of fact, it's a little town, right? This is the one that after the destruction of Sodom, Lot wanted to go. He was told to go to the hills, to the mountains. He said, no, I can't go. I'll die on the way. I can't make it. And he wanted to go to Zoar. What does Zoar mean? Insignificant. I want to go to the place of insignificance. I want to go to the place of irrelevance. I want to go to the place where I just blend into the scenery, where nothing is expected of me, where nothing is done by me, where I just live out my life and don't suffer anymore. I want to go to Zoar. How many of us want to go to Zoar? Just don't hurt me anymore. Politics don't hurt me anymore. Religious systems don't hurt me anymore. God don't hurt me anymore. Wife, husband, children don't hurt me anymore. This is not our pathway. That's Zoar. That's the path of insignificance, irrelevance. This is a path where I call it the place of de minimis. It means you just don't matter anymore. You quit mattering. You go to that place. Well, Zoar is one of the places along the hallway, but across the hallway, the other choice you could make. Where was he told to go? The mountains. I lift my eyes up to the mountains. Where does my help come from? The mountains, soaring in the mountains. This is where we're called to be, the place of significance, the place of relevance. Name some mountains. Let's talk about mountains. You want to talk about mountains? Talk about Sinai. You want to talk about Sinai? You want to talk about Moriah? You want to talk about Zion? Which mountains do you want to talk about? This is the place of significance. This is the place of relevance. This is the counterpart of Zoar, where you just live out your life in anonymity and without responsibility, and where all you care about is, please don't hurt me anymore. Psalm 121 tells you another story, and so does all of the Torah. All of Scripture tells you to go to the mountains with the Holy One. And then there's the third series of prophetic visions. There's the cave. Not only did Lot go to Zoar, he found out Zoar was not even pleasant. He couldn't even go. So he goes, and he and his daughters go to the cave. The cave at the very foothills, just out of Zoar, just past Zoar, in the foothills of Moab. And he goes into a cave, and he loses all vision because he can't, and his daughters can't see beyond the present moment. And they think everybody in the world's dead because they're in a cave. They think the plan of God has died, if they ever even understood it, because they are in their cave. Well, don't let America be your cave. Don't let the news broadcast of this day become your cave. Oh, folks, the creator of the universe is alive, and a plan is afoot, and a great redemption and a great restoration is taking place. So don't go to the cave with Lot and his daughters. What do they say? Oh, our father is old. That's a funny thing to say, because you know what's about to happen? A guy older than him is about to have a baby. Our father's old. And there's no other men in the world, because they're stuck in their cave and they can't see the great plan of God. I won't go into that. No time. There's always hope. There's always something happening just beyond the corner if you will just open your heart to receive it. So what? That's where Lot and his daughters go. What's the other side of the hill? What's the other side of the hallway? Where is God calling us? And that's what happens with Avram. Avram has to leave the oaks of Mamre. He has to leave Elonei Mamre because of the fallout from Sodom and Gomorrah, because of how the air is polluted, because of all that's happened. He has to find another place. Will he go to the cave too? No, I'll just short-circuit it for you. No, he ain't going to no stinking cave. Because he's a friend of God. He's a friend of the creator of the universe. And so where does he go? He goes to the Negev desert between Kadesh and Shur. Some of you may have some vision if you've been to Israel. You know what's all between Kadesh and Shur in the Negev desert. It says he went and he settled there in this place, but he visited, he traded with Gerar, the city of Gerar, which was the Philistine stronghold. He had been, his trading partner had been Sodom, Gomorrah, and the cities of the plain back when he was the Oaks of Mamre. That's where you went to trade. And instead of hiding, he's going back to the population centers, back to the place where all the wicked people are, where all the sin is going on. He's not hiding himself from it. He is the ultimate prepper. He's prepping for a harvest. He's prepping for a restoration. He's prepping for somebody to come along in this process. He separates the difference. Kadesh and Shur, the Negev. And then there's the next place he mentions is Ber Lachai Roy. I've talked to you about this well of vision, or this spring of life vision. Ber Lachai Roy, of life, the vision. Roy, see. And so there's this place. It has a counterpart as well, and it's mentioned in the story of Yishmael. And the story of Yishmael is where Yishmael winds up. He starts out at Be'er Lachai Roy. That's where his life is given to him. Water is provided to him. Oh, hallelujah. The grace, the mercies of God are poured out on Yishmael and Hagar at Be'er Lachai Roy. And he chooses to marry an Egyptian and then live in the wilderness of Paran, in the watershed of Paran. And you know what's in Paran, right? Piranhas. I'm sorry. Flesh eaters. Flesh eaters. And so we're going to see Paran later. We'll see Paran in the wilderness stories. We'll see all that happen, how the flesh gets eaten in Paran in this process. These are prototypes of places. Which one do you choose? Do you choose Ber Lahai Roy? That even in your weakness, even in your need, even in your sense of rejection by the world, by those who matter to you, the angel of the Holy One has found you and has released living water into your life and given you a new help? Or do you see yourself going to Paran and becoming a flesh eater and living among the flesh eaters? And all you do is live for flesh. Which way? And then there's Gerar, as we mentioned. Gerar is the place where the Philistines are in charge, where the giants rule the land, where they actually think they're righteous. They actually think they're Tzaddikim. And so they can't understand why people would believe, why Abraham, for instance, would not trust them with his wife Sarah. They are incensed. Avimelech, the king of Gerar, is absolutely incensed that Abraham thought he would do something cruel and perverse to Sarah, because they do it all the time. That's the way they live. That's their lifestyle. And so that's what you find in your world. Your world is incensed at you because you don't trust them. That you would dare think that perhaps they're not all 100% above board. Elections being one of the most recent scenario. They're incensed that you could say, I'm not sure this is legitimate in this process. Because you see, they are self-righteous and they believe themselves to be right, and therefore they immediately condemn you for everything that you might even suspect or suggest in that process. So Gerar is one of the doors, but there's another one, and that's Beersheba. The antithesis, the kingdom antithesis of Gerar is Beersheba. What happens at Beersheba? Well, here comes Gerar. Here comes Avimelech and Pikol, the spokesman. Pikol is a funny thing. Unclean mouth. If you want to take it literally in Hebrew, unclean mouth. Here comes Pikol, the unclean mouthpiece of Avimelech, saying, hey, make a covenant with us of non-aggression, mutual non-aggression. We've treated you good. We've treated you fair. Yeah, right. But at any rate, we've treated you fair, so you treat us fair, and don't cross this line to hurt you, and we won't cross your line to hurt you. And so now there's this issue of about this well. About this well here, Beersheba, about this well. Why are you still claiming it? Why are your people still polluting it? Why are you doing these things? Well, okay, and they make a covenant at that particular stage that you can have your stinking well. Abraham, just don't hurt us anymore. One man hurting the Philistine armies and the giants that go with that process. Anyway, so we have, which one are you in? Are you in Gerar? Are you frustrated with Gerar? Are you angry with Gerar? Are you incensed at how they would dare challenge your lecture you on morality when they are obviously the purveyors of the absolute? Are you upset with that, or are you living in Beersheba? So no, I want to make sure that I fill up the sphere of influence that my Creator has given me with the most fullness of the beauty, the majesty of the life force of God. That's Beersheba. And then finally there's Moriah. The final place, a physical location, is referenced in this parsha, and it also has its counterpart, Moriah. Moriah is that place where heaven touches earth, you see, because what you see is you go up this mountain, but then you look up and there's something above the mountain. What is it? The ram. The ram that we started the whole process with is above the mountain. And so he goes to the top of the mountain. He's got the altar. Avraham has got Yitzhak. This is the binding of Yitzhak. And he begins to say, I don't know what you want me to do here. He pulls the knife. He light the fire lit and looks up above the crest of the mountain, and he sees a ram caught in a thicket. Where's that ram? Where's the thicket? It ain't on Mount Moriah. It's above. It's the Mount Moriah above. And so he sees the connection between heaven and earth right there, and the connection is made and sealed in that location on Mount Moriah. But it also has its counterpart, which is the mountain of Moriah, the mountain of the Holy One in the heavens, which comes down. And both of these, this is the center point. This is the flash point of heaven coming to earth. Everything good will come out of Moriah. Everything good will come out of the mountain of the Holy One, touching the earth and being released upon the earth, and he will appear in that regard. Well, I know that we're going to run a little out of time. I want to talk to you just basically about one scenario, one vignette, one of the subplots of this parsha. I've kind of touched on several by giving you the locations. I knew I wouldn't have time to cover them all. So I want to talk about one. And this is the one that beginning with chapter 18. Beginning with chapter 18, verse 1. If you would stand with me, we're going to read, and this will be the English translation, of course. We're going to read a section of this portion. And as we do so, in honor of the gift that he's given us of these words, and even the translations, we say, open our eyes. Open our eyes, O Holy One, that we may see wondrous things in your Torah. Do not hide your commandments from us, for we are but strangers in the earth. Our souls cry out for your judgments at all times. Amen. Chapter 18, verse 1 in the English translation. This happens to be the New King James. And then the Lord appeared to him, Vayera, by the terebinth trees, the oak trees of Mamre, as he was sitting in the tent door in the heat of the day. And so he, this is talking about Avraham, he lifted his eyes and looked, and behold, 3 men were standing by him. And when he saw them, he ran. He ran from the tent door to meet them, and he bowed himself down to the ground. And he said, O my Lord, Adonai, if I have found favor, chen, grace, in your sight, do not pass your servant by. Do not pass me by. Please let a little water be brought, and wash your feet, and rest yourselves, refresh your hearts under the tree. And I will bring you a morsel of bread, that you may refresh your hearts, and that you may pass by, for you have come to your servant. And they said, do as you have said. Thank you. You may be seated. Fascinating scripture. You say, why did the Holy One break the affinity barrier? Why did he step out of, and why did he appear this way? There are 3 men standing, and there's even a dispute among the sages. Were these 3 men separate from the Holy One? In other words, did he leave off a conversation with the Holy One to go to take care of 3 men, show them hospitality? Or was the Holy One part of the 3 men? Or was he all 3 of the men? Who knows? We don't know. It's a mystery. It's a glorious thing. But somehow or other, it's all tied up together. And somehow the creator of the universe broke the affinity barrier and stepped into Abraham's life. So why? You say, well, he had come to tell Abraham that, because he's going to do this, he's going to tell Abraham that he's going to have a son in a year. When he comes back the next year, by virtue, Sarah's going to have a child. He'll visit her and she'll have a child. He's going to tell her that. But there's a problem with that as being your reason, because he told him already. In chapter 17, beginning in verse 15 of chapter 17, in the last great visitation, the last time he broke through the affinity barrier and came, he told Abraham, one-on-one with Abraham, Abraham, you're going to have a child through Sarah, and you're going to change Sarai's name to Sarah, and she's going to have a child. It's going to be a year when I come back. So he's already told us. This is not the reason to tell him something he already knew. But he didn't tell Sarah. He didn't tell Sarah, and Sarah kind of needs to know. Sarah has shown a tendency to try to push things forward in the flesh and rush things. And rushing is one of the words, one of the Hebrew words that is a theme. Rushing, hurrying, running fast, trying to get everything done fast. That's one of the themes. It's kind of the tongue-in-cheek Hebrew. Yeah, you want to be in such a hurry. Don't be in such a hurry. Wait, be ready to wait. So it's not so that Abraham will know that he's going to have a child. It's so that Sarah will know that she's going to have a child. And there's that other little unpleasant business about Sodom and Gomorrah. Because he's come down to deal with he says, and we're going to move forward to the guts of it. I hope you'll see a couple of things. Chapters 18 and 19, chapters 18 and 19 are this parallel contrast. The traditional Elohim signature, the brushstrokes. I'll show you two things. I'll show you how they diverge. I'll show you day and night. I'll show you waters above, waters below. I'll show you dry land and water. I'm going to show you the Elohim signature. I'm going to show you the pathway that we've got, the process over here, and I'm going to show you Sodom and Gomorrah as the opposite of that process. So he's going to do that, and he's going to say that how the society, how a family entertains strangers and responds to divine visitations will determine their future. Hospitality. Abraham is known for his hospitality. You understand this? And in Hebrews, the book of Hebrews, be careful. Don't. Sometimes people have entertained strangers, angels unawares. Be not forgetful to entertain strangers, because you just don't know who you're dealing with out there. Yeshua had this parable in chapter 7 of Matthew. They kept saying, Lord, we've done these mighty works in your name. We fed the poor. We did all these stuff. He said, wait. I came, and where were you? I was sick. I was in prison. I was naked. Where were you then? I don't remember you ever being there. This is how well do you handle the disadvantaged, the poor, the folks in your midst? This is the challenge. So part of it is the hospitality. How are you at hospitality? Now, hermits are not good at hospitality. Those who have consigned themselves to an irrelevance, insignificance, just I don't want anybody to hurt me, or afraid of being hurt by society, and they will be, those folks are not good at hospitality. And therefore, their end is not good, because it's all related to that. But we get to this process, is okay, we see Abraham just doing crazy stuff. First of all, most of us know, according to the traditions, that it was the third day after his circumcision when he was sitting in the heat of the day in front of his tent. Not a very comfortable day, not a very pleasant time. And when he sees these three strangers, he sees three strangers, and he gets up and he runs, which is not a comfortable thing. And he falls on his face, which is not a comfortable thing. In the heat, which is not a comfortable thing. And he bows, and we're going to see the contrast with Lot. It says that Avram prostrated himself face down in front of these three strangers as he bowed to them in the Holy One. It says Lot bowed his face. There's a big difference. You see how Avram is laying everything down, and Lot is showing the beginnings of the differences in the levels of hospitality, and you'll see it developing, these themes of different hospitalities. Watch them as it goes forward. From everything from that point forward is you're supposed to be looking at this parallel. 18 and 19. What's Lot doing? Wait a minute, what did Abraham do? What's the difference? What's the quantitative difference between the way Abraham gave hospitality And what's the way that Lot and the people of Sodom gave hospitality to the divine visitors, to the ones who come to their place? Well, it goes past all that. Finally, the meal is served, and the meal is fascinating. Meal will upset my Jewish brothers very badly because it mixes dairy and meat. What can I say? It's Avram. Talk to Avram, don't talk to me. He mixes dairy and meat. He brings out the best of everything he's got. He kills the fatted calf. He has his son, Ishmael, kill the fatted calf, or at least a boy, Na'ar. The only one that we know of. And so he kills the fatted calf. He prepares it. Sarah is rushing around. Sarah's playing both Martha and Mary at the same time. She's bringing all the food. She's working their tail off and getting everything ready. And then she's standing at the doorway going like, she's choosing the better way. She's Martha and Mary rolled into one. And after all this takes place, the meal's over, and they're refreshed. Their heart, they get up, and the two get up to go towards Sodom. And Avram actually walks with them. Yeshua's teaching about if a man would have you go with him 2 miles, with 1 mile, go twain. All of Yeshua's parables, all Yeshua's stories basically come out of the Torah and out of the process. So here's what he's saying to you. So look, this is part of hospitality. It doesn't matter if they're even worthy or not. You are doing this because this is part of your testimony, your witness for the Holy One. It's not a matter of their worth. It's a matter of yours and your relationship with the Holy One. So he goes with them, and he stops, and they have this conversation. And we actually have the creator of the universe open his brain, pull off his forehead, so to speak, or his flesh, if we can imagine him having that. And let us look into the inner workings of his heart and his brain, how he thinks. And he says in English, "Shall I hide from Abraham what I am doing?" Well, if you are Lot, you're probably going to have it hid from you. You are not giving of yourself the fullness of who you are, and therefore, but he's not going to hide from Abraham what he's doing. He's not going to hide from his friend. You see this, Yeshua said the difference between a servant and a friend. Remember what it was? Because the servant doesn't know what his master's doing. But the friend knows exactly, because he knows the master, what the master's doing. And so here we have Abraham distinguishing himself. Shall I hide from Abraham what I'm doing? He says, no, I have I've made myself known to him, and he is knowing me. We are in this knowing relationship. We're in this, he knows me, I know him. He knows what I'm doing, I know what he's doing. We're in this thing together, and therefore I have known him. And he will, the reason he will, and this is the definitional, this is the identification passage of the whole parsha, of the whole, this section of the Torah, this section of the chiasm. Now we already know that we're to be a great nation. We're to be have a great name. We already know that the world will respond to us, and how they respond to us will determine whether they're blessed or whether they're cursed. Well, what a responsibility. Not to act in such a way as to make them respond negatively to us. Can't help their response, that's their business, but not to make their response natural or have them justified by virtue of being angry with us. Herschel Greenspan, do you hear me? It's not your fault. On the other hand, you could have done something a little better. And this is our key of being this. We already know this part. So now the next thing is, so what are we here for then? How do we engage? How do we participate? And he says, I have known and been known by Abraham, in order that he may join, he may instruct and teach and train his sons and those of his household following. Now, he doesn't even have sons yet, except for Ishmael. But he's going to have a son, we know that. And the son and the household that follows. The household. Remember I told you that the grand plan of redemption is for bloodline and households, the redemption of mankind, bloodline by bloodline, household by household. And so Abraham is supposed to do something in regard to his bloodline and in regard to his household. What is he to do? that he would instruct them, that he would teach them, that he would zav them. English says command, but boy, it's a strange way of looking at it. And he would instruct them, enjoin them, charge them, so to speak, to do the way, to follow the way, the derech of the Holy One. And to asa zedakah umishpat. To build, to make it come to pass, something called zedakah umishpat. And I haven't interpreted those, I haven't translated those phrases for you because I really don't want you to buy into the English versions of this. I want you to rethink everything Hebraically and understand what is being said here. So, first of all, there's something involving our children, right? And all those who follow. I remember, you've all known the house when you were growing up. You like going to your house, hopefully, maybe not. But everybody hung out at the other house. I remember the Rubenstein's house. I went to the Rubenstein's house. I didn't have any physical relationship there, but they blessed their children on Friday night. And I got to sneak in and be there with Rabbi Rubenstein. And I wanted to be in that house. Heavens, folks, do you get it? We're supposed to be that house. We're supposed to be that house. Yours is supposed to be that house where people want to go because that's where the blessing is. That's where the shalom is. That's where the hope is. That's where the life is. So your household after you, your bloodline, your sons, and your household after you are supposed to be this download of the mountain of the Holy One on your little Mount Moriah. Down here in this process, this is what Abraham's calling is. Our Abrahamic calling. It says now in that process you will teach them to asa, to build, to form and shape in real practical ways, functional ways, not abstract theoretical ways. You will actually build something that looks like zedakah umishpat. Whew, this is good. And we're almost out of time, so I got to go quickly, okay? So let's do this. One of the key phrases, other than hurry and rush and laughter, those are the two first key phrases of the parsha. Then the third one is Zadik. Everywhere, here is Zadik, there is Zadik. No Zadik, no 10 Zadiks, no 10 Zadikim. Everything about this parsha is about the Zadik. And in English, we're going to read righteous one. And immediately something pops in our head. Prophet said, Yeshua repeated, there is none righteous. Shaul repeated, there is none righteous, no, not one. There's no Zadik. None in that process, not the way people think about it. There's nobody like that. So why are we talking about Zadikim when there aren't any? Because it's a whole other world in the Hebrew, and the whole other world with Abraham. And Zedek is the process here, Zedek. And that is and in English, the modern Hebrews, modern Jewish people tend to translate Zedekah, which is the first thing we're supposed to teach and train and yield, as charity or giving to the poor. We have a tzedakah box. We have a box for it. We put our little coins in it and we save them up and we give them to the homeless shelter or the poor folks or whatever. And that's kind of the way in which we view tzedakah. And that's one part of it, but that's not the essence of what tzedek means. Tzedek is a term from the construction industry. Building things. When you build things. Now, if you get a whole bundle of 2x4s delivered to your house so you can build something out, your sukkah or whatever you're going to build, your addition, and you get a whole bundle of 2x4s. What do you have to do when you get the 2x4s? You start unbundling and take them out, looking at them one by one, setting aside which ones are suitable, which ones will actually hold the weight of the structure, and which ones they look 2x4 or thereabouts, close to it. But you don't want to put any weight on that rascal. You don't want your house, you don't want your roof having to hold up under that, with that being your foundation. It's not strong enough, though it looks like it ought to work. It's not strong enough to hold the weight, to carry the weight of the kingdom glory in the physical, spiritual world, or to carry the weight of the weight load of the engineering world of the physical realm. So what is Zedek? Zedek are those 2x4s that will actually support the weight, that will actually be usable in the structure to help build what's being built. Zedek is not a matter of morality. It's not a matter of kindness. It's a matter of functionality. Will you hold the weight of the glory? Will the weight of glory smash you? Will the weight of pain or angst from the world? Will the weight of worry, will the weight crush you? Will you collapse under it? Or are you strong enough to be able to be a foundation pillar in this realm? This is the issue of a Zedek. A Zedek is one that, though he may not be perfect, have you ever seen a 2x4 that was actually 2x4? We got a contractor over here. They aren't 2x4. Measure them one sometime. And not only that, even if they were 2x4, in some places they're not going to be uniform. No matter how good the plane was or how good the saw was, you're still going to find this ins and outs. So it's not a matter of being perfect. Zedek is not perfect. Zedek is functional, that will actually hold the weight. Will your life hold the weight of the glory of God? Will you hold the weight? Will your thoughts, will your mind, will your heart, will your affections, will your relationships bear up under, first of all, the weight of the goodness of God, the weight of the mercies, the kindnesses of God, the presence of who he is? And second of all, whether it will wear up under that or not, if the world sends the wind and the rain and the storms against you, if the election doesn't go the way you want it to, or the way you know it should or feel it should, if the COVID, if they make you wear a mask when you don't want to wear that mask, I don't want to wear it either. If there's something in the world that goes on, if you lose a loved one, if you lose a child, if you are estranged, if you lose a marriage, if you lose your health, will you still bear up under the weight of the things that the world can throw at you? This is the question. And will you continue to function? This is Zedek. You know, are there 10 Zedekim in this city? Are there 10 of you in this room? Are there 10 of us who will stand up under the wear and keep standing strong and keep doing what we're here to do and being who we're here to be? And we've only begun. We've only talked about Zedekah. To teach, to train, to model, to disciple in Zedekah. Are we in that realm? This is why I don't subscribe to hype. And it turns me completely away, because hype will not get you ready to bear up under the weight. It'll get you excited for a few minutes, but when it's over and whenever the gild is off the lily and the blush is off the rose and there's nothing to celebrate and rejoice over and everything around you seems to be going to hell in a handbasket, are you Zedek or not? That's the real question, and that's the real key, to build this strength, to make sure we comply with the specifications of the king. The second thing is, the second definitional, because this is who we are, this is the covenant calling, is to be Zedekim, to teach and train people, not just to be it ourselves, but to train others and bring disciples behind us who are Zedekim as well. And the second process is to add to that, to offset that. To offset everything in Hebrew, everything in the Elohim signature is two offsetting things. So what balances the Zedek? What balances that strength and that firmness, that resolve, that weight-bearing capability? What balances that? Umishpat. The mishpat. And it's, like I say, in English, it's usually translated justice. Oh, my heaven, what a terrible. You do not want justice. You don't want it for yourself, and you don't want it for anybody else. Your idea of justice is they get what's coming to them. They get condemned. They get exposed. They get revealed. They get yelled at. They get crucified. That's what your idea of justice is. And he says, no, that's not what justice is. Justice is when everybody gets that. When you all get exactly what you deserve. When every act is judged, that's what your idea of justice is. It's everybody getting exactly what they deserve. And I say, no, that's not what I want. That won't balance that will not balance the Zedek. What balances the Zedek? The sense of compassion and kindness, what is necessary to bring restoration. And that's what mishpat is. Mishpat is what is necessary to carry, to push the envelope of the kingdom forward. What is necessary to move on? What is necessary to get past this? Not vengeance. Vengeance is what's necessary to make you feel better about what just happened. For a few minutes, until somebody brings vengeance against you for bringing vengeance against them and their children, or their ethnicity, or their whatever. That you don't want vengeance and you don't want justice. What you want is mishpat. What you want is whatever it takes, whatever is necessary, whatever the creator of the universe says needs to happen for us to move forward and push the envelope and the needle of the kingdom further into the next process. This is why, what happened with the woman caught in adultery. Well, justice would have said, stone her, send her to kill her, expose her. Justice would have said that. And we had a Zedek here. We had a righteous man. We had Yeshua. But he says that's not what needs. What needs to happen is whatever is necessary to take the kingdom to the next phase. And so therefore, what we're going to do is we're going to introduce another thing here. We're going to take the rules of civil procedure, the due process rules, and we're going to apply them in such a way that justice is not done. Not as men see it. But on the other hand, we have an entire new generation that will come forth from this woman as she moves forward, or she at least has the opportunity to move forward, and everybody forgets the whole process, and it will not be spoken again as, well, it was so unfair that she got away. What will be spoken of is, I don't understand the mercies and the goodness of God. All he did was basically use the rules of civil procedure or criminal procedure. He said you have to have 2 witnesses. You have to have 2 credible witnesses. There are no witnesses. He just followed Torah. He just followed Torah. That was mishpat. He just followed Torah. You say, that looks like mercy to me in that situation. No, it's just following the Torah to bring about what necessarily needs to happen in order for us to move on as a society. Now, the other little thing people don't think about in that whole story is, let's say they all picked up stones and stoned the woman. Let's just say they all said, we're going to pick up stones and stone the woman to death. What would have happened next? Remember this. We are living under Roman occupation. Remember this, that one thing that Roman occupation took away from us was the right to use our own system of justice. They had to follow the Roman system of justice, which was no system at all. But it was theirs. And so therefore, if any one of those men had picked up a stone and thrown it at that woman who was caught in adultery, if any one of them had done so, the Roman government would have been all over us, and it would have brought about the end of the temple 70 years too early, before the plan of God was going to take place for that, before another way was paved, another road to righteousness, another way to Zedek was paved and walked and modeled by the Holy One and by his people in this process. And so you see, it's not as simple as you think of giving people what they deserve. That is not a good, simple path to go on. And that is not justice. And that is not mishpat. Mishpat is what is necessary to push the needle forward of the kingdom. That's why we're here. How do we not be like the rest of the world? Because the rest of the world comes up with all these ideas of what's right and wrong and fair and unfair and moral and immoral. And they want to impose those. That's the way Gerar is. That's the way Sodom is. That's the way it is in America and in South Africa and in Australia and in Canada and in Mexico and in South America and here, right here in River City, Texarkana. That's the way the world around us thinks. They ought to get this. Boy, you see it in the social media, you see it in the news. That's all they talk about is how this person ought to get that because they're not doing what we want them to do and they're wrong and they're evil and how terrible they all are. Don't be a mouthpiece of that. Don't be part of that. Do not allow yourself. That's not why we're here. We're vessels of light. People who do that go to places called insignificant, irrelevant, useless, meaninglessness,
Meaningless. People who, on the other hand, say, what will it take in this situation to move the needle of the kingdom one step further? Those are the ones who will be enlarged, grow through mature through testing, mature through tribulation, mature through trials, and will begin to become more and more ready for whatever the Holy One may happen to allow us to come into. Build our sphere of influence, build our household following. And here's, I guess, my next question, my final question before we leave this part and we move into the second session of our deal that's private for our local group, is this: do you have a household following? Don't be condemned if you do not. Don't sit there and feel like a failure because at this particular moment in your life you have no household following. You know, because he will teach and instruct his children and his household following. But this is the day when we make the decision. This is the day when we throw aside every other priority, every other concept, every other thought of what's important, and say we need to have a household following. And we will devote our time and our energy, we'll put our face in the sand and our body at whatever cost it may be to do what he says and build this household following that he has desired for us to have, that he has desired for the world to see. Because you see, remember, he has a grand plan. We're part of the grand plan. This is the methodology of the grand plan, whether you would have chosen it or whether you would not. This is the plan. There is no second way. There is no plan B. You are the plan, and your household following is a big part of that plan. Well, Shabbat Shalom to everybody. We're about to leave the video, and so all you, my friends, please leave your name and place where you are. If you're kind of concerned about the media monitoring, that's okay. Just leave your first name and your location. General, I understand. We are at a different time, but please leave something and just say hello, and we bless you. If we can pray for you, let us pray for you. If we can answer a question, I don't know if we can, but we'll try. If we can encourage you and inspire you in any way, that's why we're here. That's why we're doing what we're doing. This is only week 4 of a long journey that we're all taking together. I pray that the messages that we've spoken in this room will help you make more sense of the next phase of the journey when it comes. Shabbat Shalom. Amen.